Hello, everyone. So before I introduce myself and tell you a bit about my life, I'd like to take this time to thank you for all you do for Pacific Athletics. Personally, I'd like to thank you on the behalf of my athletes, my fellow student athletes, because we're all very grateful. And just to let you know that it's not an everyday thing where we get to thank some of us total strangers for things that you guys do. And I just want to let you know that everything you do for us is truly great. So in a way, I'd like to thank you all for being my blessing in disguise. My name is Andres Ochoa Baeza, as Coach said. I was born in Guadalajara, Jalisco, Mexico. I lived there until I was about 9 years old before my family found themselves in a struggle bus and needed to migrate to the United States in pursuit of the American dream. You know, I was young and I didn't understand why we were doing such a move, so I became filled with rage, followed by tears knowing that I was leaving everything behind, friends, family, a good soccer team. But now that I look back at it, I think of myself as selfish because I didn't realize how much my parents were sacrificing on their own, their whole lives, just for my siblings and I to have a different, aspect of life and different opportunities. So my mother she's a teacher and worked for the educational department while we're in Mexico, and so she was very busy. My dad, on the other hand, owned his own restaurant. And at the time, I thought it was successful. I always saw his friends coming in and out of there. But as a young boy, I didn't know any better. And, we lived in a small apartment where, income sometimes was problematic for us. And so it's funny how now that I look back on my time at Pacific, all these little things remind me of who I was and who I become and who I will be. And so I like to carry on by saying that my time in the States was not very easy to begin with. I was bullied from elementary school because I didn't speak any English. There was also the language barrier, and I couldn't find a soccer team to play on my level because I was part of a really good academy back in Mexico. My middle school was also pretty tough, but I'm a pretty personable guy, as you will see, hopefully, as you're seeing now. But I often hung out with the wrong crowd because my middle school was in a wealthy area, but it was also, where a lot of troubled kids went to school. And so I often found myself hanging out with the wrong crowds, and some of the bullies I had turned into physical altercations because, like Coach said, I'm a fighter. I like to compete. But this was a waking moment for my parents to realize, hey, we could invest more because we have made more money here because of our move, so let's send them to a private institution, which was Archbishop Mitty High School. And that's when I had my best years. I had my best years there, but just like we all do, we're human, we make mistakes. I was expelled from a high school, and I went through even a tougher time because selfishly, I made decisions that I wish I could take back because my parents invested so much in my education and will continue to as I find myself here speaking to you. So at high school, everything was looking up for me because I was supposed to be a Hall of Famer. A Hall of Fame spot was into me, or was, set up for me if I just carried on. But like I said, I made a mistake that I wish I could take back. And I just want to say this. I tell this story not to show that I am a troublemaker, but to simply illustrate some of the difficulties I went through along with my siblings, and just like we all have in this room. Also, I want to make a point that as humans, we cannot define ourselves for the mistakes that we make, but rather how we solve these problems and bounce back and try to prove people wrong, that put you in places where, you have to, it comes from within at this point. And so I always tell myself, and I continue to tell myself this every day, learn from the past, but never look behind. Keep your eyesight forward and don't let anything hold you back. Anyways, as my life was crumbling and I was playing the best soccer I could imagine, and I was talking to a bunch of schools. Many of them heard about my story. I also told them personally, and most of them cut off contact directly. Luckily, there was one exception, and that's where Pacific had become my only chance at pursuing my dream of playing collegiate soccer and advancing further in the professional level. Ryan Jordan, a man I will now forever hold close to my heart, was starting a new program at the University of Pacific, which is a place I also never heard of. And so just like the program itself needed a restart from back in the day, I was looking for myself for a fresh start. I was full of disappointment. I was battling with, do I want to keep playing soccer? What is my worth? I was really at a low point in my life. but I knew it was what I wanted. Since a young boy, I dreamed of, lacing up the boots professionally and playing in front of lights. But, sorry, excuse me. And so this is a funny story, actually. Now that I went on my official visit with Ryan Jordan, my mom was there with me, and my dad was there with me too, because we had to discuss the troublesome I had in high school. And my mom goes like, this place is beautiful, you have no choice. And so, and I looked at my dad and I was like, Dad, are you okay with this? And he was like, well, I always tell you to listen to your mother, so you're going to Pacific. A couple weeks later, I had to call Ryan Jordan and let him know I am so excited. This is the most excited I've ever been on the phone, and I let him know I'm committing to Pacific, and I'm just ready to put in the work for this program to be something great. And it was funny because the excitement was probably tripled from his end on the phone. I almost had to go like, oh. So, as he introduced me before, I was the first commit, and I was just ready to hit the ground running. Now let me fast forward to my first fall at Pacific. I really felt that was in my dream school. Truly, everything is great, and I will explain some of those stuff that you guys make great later. But my sport was a nightmare. We were, like Coach said, 0-3 in our first 2 seasons. Sorry, we had only won 3 games in our first 2 seasons, and everybody would ask me, how's the team doing? How did you guys do last week? And I just put my head down and kind of was like, do we have to talk about this? You can read it on the school letter, email later on, so just please let me go and try to get better for today. But I never doubted myself because there was belief from Ryan Jordan, the coaching staff, and more importantly, myself and the people in my locker room. And we believed we were going to take steps to make this place greater. But I can't go on without mentioning that there was also belief from people like the people sitting here. I say this because you donors provide us with such great facilities. And I'll begin with training table. And let me just tell you what a luxury that is, because as a student athlete, as we saw in the video with Miles, we're very busy. We don't have that much time. So training table offered me an opportunity to have somewhere to go without waiting for a long line to swipe my meal plan, which I was running out of most of the time. And it was just really great, and I was never late to class or study hall. And study hall is also a great asset. I would spend 20 hours a week there. Coach could attest to this. Me and my buddy Curtis, a teammate of mine, we would log in 20 hours a week when the only team was required to do 10. This was partly because I didn't have a laptop and I couldn't afford one, but I finally got one my last semester, so it's all working out for me. But I will go on to say, that struggle for me kept going on, where I had to go more and more into study hall until we got the iPads. I mean, the iPads made everything easier for me. I finally can go to my dorm and relax, or my apartment and relax, and just be able to kick back. But not only that, my iPad allowed me to, go to class, take notes on there, and keep everything more organized as we progress in this technological world that we're, fastly just moving towards. And on top of that, it's incredible how we had so much access to film. We had our schedule daily, on TeamSync, which is an app we had for our team. And it was just truly great because it took my game to the next level, because I was able to watch film after film after film. And that was just part of my dedication for this team's greatness. And it's just truly all of these are blessings. Furthermore, I was lucky enough to play on one of the nicest training pitches in all of America. And it's funny how before every practice, Coach Jordan sarcastically comments and says, look at how bad this is. Look at how bad you have it. And it's just a nice, friendly reminder to show us that we truly are blessed in Pacific, and it's because of people like you. Now, because of all the reasons above and our hunger for wins, our team had a mission. And we wanted that best, or the all-time best, turnaround NCAA history. But there was a new culture to be instilled. And personally, I was ready to lead this team. I remember walking in the coach's office, numerous times and saying, I want to lead this team, I want to lead this team. But he would tell me, you're too angry, you got to mature more. So it was a process for me, and I'm a better man because of that today. And so I always tell myself that goals come and go. You know, we set goals for the week, we set goals for the day, and they come and go. But when you make something your mission, you really got to get after it, like we see in action movies. So in a way, in my movie, in my life, I guess they can call us the Tom Cruise of the NCAA, because we made the seemingly impossible, possible. And so the greatest turnaround in NCAA history took place my junior year. And to be honest, it was a relief, but almost more pressure fell under my shoulders, because I needed to prove, along with my teammates, that we're not a one-time deal, that we were more than that, and that this program is going to go further in the years to come. And so we ended up falling to Stanford, but you know, I remember thinking to myself, my biggest accomplishment has got to be that my team brought an NCAA tournament game to our home field. Not only that, but we left our Pacific home record, we left invictus. We were unbeatable, and that was one of our core statements in our sheet that we have to sign before each season. And that was just something I was most proud of. But obviously, my career came to the end that day, and I remember my last words as a captain for my guys, and I quote, "We do not cry sad tears, only happy tears, because although we accomplished something great in winning lots of games, our greatest accomplishment and what we'll remember most is the circle of friendship and family we have built here on this field and in Pacific." And then everybody got a little bit of sad. We're like, we'll miss you, whatever. And then I told them, now you all owe me a conference championship and a longer stay at the NCAA tournament, because that's what we want. That is what we're striving to achieve. And so I stand before you now to tell you that your belief and support for all athletes makes a world of difference. And so I thank you for, even though you didn't know me before, you believed in a young man like me who had a vision. I want to thank you for the facilities and the great people who run these facilities, like our strength trainers and our athletic training room, which are top of the line. And along my way, I've built my best relationships there. I want to also thank you for giving me a home my parents could not afford, because of your generous generations for the past 4 years and the years to come. I also want to thank you for the sacrifices you make outside of your personal life to make Pacific eternally great. I want to thank you also for allowing me to pursue my education while pursuing my dreams of becoming a professional soccer player, and eventually, hopefully all that transcends into me helping out the community of Stockton even more. And finally, I'd like to thank you for the countless blessings you have provided for a young man whose parents sacrificed everything for this upcoming May, when I'll be graduating of Pacific, a much, much better man than I was 4 years ago. So I'm really grateful, and thank you.